Chief Communications Officer Marc and former Washington, D.C. homicide detective Fox News contributor Ted Williams. Thank you all for being with us tonight.
Hey, Shannon, good to see you.
Okay, I want to start. We got a couple big stories here, but let's go back to this document the DOJ has just filed. So Thursday, there's going to be a hearing about whether or not there should be a special master, this new neutral arbiter who will go through documents that were seized at Mar-a-Lago. DOJ says we've already gone through the documents. So they're opposing this on several grounds. But one of the things they say tonight, Mark, is that they say that a Trump lawyer, quote, explicitly prohibited FBI agents from looking in boxes in storage, in the storage room on their June visit. A lot's been made. Hey, we were cooperating in June. All this stuff was happening. But there are new claims in here, including tonight, that they were kept away from boxes they wanted to see and thought they needed to see.
Yeah, and I think that's where we get some of the crux of the issue and why they want a special master is because the FBI has even admitted when they have reviewed the documents, they have found privileged information, which could include attorney-client privileged information, which would obviously be, the property of the president or the former president. So I would understand why they would be questioning whether the agent should be looking in all of these boxes when there could be materials in there that shouldn't be provided to law enforcement.
Okay, another thing that they have in this filing is they say that a Trump lawyer, and I'm having a hard time reading my writing as I'm chicken scratching reading through this thing, but they say they never asserted to the FBI that he had declassified the records. Ted, what do you make about what we're learning? I mean, you've done many a search warrant. You know how a lot of this works.
Absolutely, and I've handled some of these as a lawyer also, and I can tell you that the president in and of himself cannot just willy-nilly by the stroke of a pen declassify documents. I think one of the questions that I want answered, Shannon, is why in the hell did a president of the United States, a former president of the United States, have to have these kind of documents in his basement? I've seen videos and I've seen pictures of these documents, and these are documents that could hurt and harm the United States of America, and I'm very troubled by that, and that's the question I want. When it comes to a special master, I don't believe a special master is necessary. They told the magistrate judge who signed this warrant that they were going to have a filter team there. And what they had was that filter team. They filtered out the attorney-client privilege information. And I really believe that there's no need for a special master.
Okay, so Kevin, his team will argue it's not just about the attorney-client privilege, though, that there is executive privilege. They think that the Presidential Records Act is being completely disregarded by the FBI. So they say it's not just about what that taint team did. They think there are other things that need to be handled as well.
Yes, and we certainly have more questions than answers, but two things are becoming very much clear as part of what we've seen just tonight. Number one, the fact that the president never asserted privilege over these documents is inherent in this document, this 36-page document that we have. On two separate occasions, when those documents were taken previously from Mar-a-Lago, that was never exercised. And number two, that photo, I think, is so damning for anyone watching when you see that classification of top secret SCI, that special compartmentalized rating for these documents. These are documents that should never leave the confines of the White House, the Pentagon, or a secure area. And the fact that so many of them, double the number of what the Trump team said originally, were found is really stunning, I think, as part of this.
So the former president's supporters will say he, as commander-in-chief, had the authority to declassify these documents and handle them as he chose after they had been declassified. So his side of the argument will be heard in court on Thursday. What we've got tonight is this document from the DOJ making these accusations. We will be watching Thursday with bated breath to see what we can get from that. In the meantime, we had this speech by President Biden today where he's talking about issues of guns and crime. Here's what the New York Times headline says. Biden calls out Republicans on guns and crime in Pennsylvania speech. It says President Biden took what have been political vulnerabilities for the White House, policing and rising crime, and portrayed them as strengths ahead of the congressional elections in November. Ted, he's taking this issue that we know is of great concern to a lot of Americans, their safety, rising crime, and now he's trying to make it a Democrat issue. Will it work for the Democrats?
You know, it could very well work. We are in a political season here where the midterms are right upon us right now. And the Republicans have always been considered the party of law and order. And then we had January the 6th, and we've seen all those police officers that were injured on Capitol Hill. And we heard the Republicans saying that these individuals, not all Republicans, but some of them, saying that these were patriotic situations. So I think what Biden has done is turn the script around on the Republicans. And as you remember, Shannon, it was the Democrats who were talking about defunding the police. And now all of a sudden, the Republicans have fallen into a trap because what they're talking about is defunding the FBI. And damn it, Shannon, we need the FBI in this country. There are people internationally and locally that wants to harm us. And we need good law enforcement in this country.
So, Mark, what about that? Because the president is now trying to paint it as if the majority of Republicans, or even the majority of those who support former President Trump, don't think January 6th was that big of a deal.
Well, I think this is going to fall on deaf ears because, I mean, we have, just months and months and months of clips of people saying defund the police, the Democrats saying defund the police. You had the now Vice President of the United States bailing out the rioters from Minneapolis during the summer of burning and looting and arson. So it's not going to be an argument that I think wins. And I think everyone in the Republican Party, many have said, look, this was a very dark day. And those folks who crossed the line, who went into the Capitol and committed violence, should face the weight of justice. But trying to flip this script and say now that the Democrats are suddenly for police and for crime and safety, I mean, it's not showing up in any of the major cities in America. A lot of Americans are really worried. It's the number 3 issue on their mind right now. And it's not something that's playing in the favor of Democrats.
So a top House Republican, Kevin McCarthy, tweeted this. He says, when violent rioters were burning cities, Kamala Harris, to Mark's point, raised money to bail them out when citizens begged for safety. Democrats defunded the police. Now Biden and Democrats want to nationalize their failed policies with total Washington control over every precinct in America. Kevin, is it too little too late?
I don't think so. This is one of the main reasons why I supported President Biden through the Democratic primary and obviously in the general election. He has always stood by law enforcement. His son that he talked about on that stage in Wilkes-Barre was the chief law enforcement officer of my home state of Delaware. So he has always been committed. He talked about the $350 billion in aid to local and state governments to hire more cops. He's talking about 100,000 more cops on the street as part of this package. So this is an issue, obviously, of grave concern to a majority of Americans. 81% of them, according to Kevin Cork's reporting, and this president delivering on those fears and delivering for these communities.
Listen, if both parties are pushing each other to be more supportive of law enforcement, I think the American people will be for that bipartisan agreement. Okay, Mark, Kevin, and Ted, thank you all very much, and for rolling with our breaking news, too.
Thanks, Shannon.
Good to see you guys. Our Republican Senator